Peace, people. Well, the weather turned crappy. It's raining outside. Really can't do anything outside. I ran a bunch of errands this morning and trying to keep some people happy. But so I have an open time slot. So we're gonna do another story time. This one is it's a crazy one. It's doesn't it kind of involves me directly, but kind of breaks my heart because it was somebody I really looked up to and followed. So anyway, I left dispatching for the state police probably 89-ish, 89, at the end of 89, right around 90, somewhere in there. But we had a problem ongoing for a little bit that there was like a serial bank robber robbing a bunch of banks in Newcastle County, like the northern area of the county. And they were having a hard time getting clues and, obviously trying to capture the perpetrator. And unfortunately, it was somebody I knew very well. And a lot of my friends knew very well. A lot of the people I worked with also worked with this individual. So it's a sad story, but it's a true story. So I'm going to reveal it. There's no way to reveal the story without just mentioning the gentleman's name. I will say that this person, the last I had heard, was rehabilitated, doing well, and that's. I just want to preface it, but it's all public record, so that's why I do not have a problem mentioning the name. But okay, so this went on for a while. So there was the gentleman, his name, Paul Shabelik. Really, I liked the guy. I really did like the guy because when you looked at him, he was literally one. If you picked like the prototypical type, what a trooper should look like, and just by size, build, facial feature, everything, he was it. I mean, he was really good for a long time. He was excellent trooper. So I always talk about someone who was a role model to me, Julio, who was like a brother and a father all rolled into one. But it kind of hurt me. Paul Shabelik and Julio were in the same police academy, Delaware State Police Academy, at the same time. And they, for many, many years, they worked out of the same state police barracks, Delaware State Police Troop 1 in Penny Hill. So let me get on with the story. So I do not have an exact count on how many bank robberies there were. I want to say there was probably at least a half a dozen, if not more. I'm just to keep it safe and fair, and let's say a half a dozen. I know it was a good amount, but it's kept occurring, and then gradually they started to get a little bit of clues, like a eyewitness sighting here and there or whatever, and then it came to light that it could be this trooper who was now. This is crazy. This is where it gets crazy. It's almost smart, It's almost like the perfect crime to a degree, which is not nice and to say, but at this point, this trooper I was telling you about was a lieutenant. He had been a detective for a few years. I don't know the exact amount, but his main position was to handle bank robberies. All right, so he would investigate bank robberies, like any type of major crimes, like armed robberies or anything like that. So he was in charge of that. He was like the head of that division. So, like I said, this went on for a while, and he was, like I said, he was an excellent trooper. And at some point in time, he got into, I don't remember when it was, but he got into he was in his, I think at that time he was in his unmarked detective car. Now, once again, I'm not 100% certain on these facts, but I knew he was involved in a vehicle accident. Somehow he was rear-ended, and he ended up having a lot of back problems. So he was subscribed to a lot of painkillers. Obviously, if you're in pain, you want to take the pain away. Totally get it. But what I did not reveal yet to date was he was married to a very influential lady within the county police. She, I think at that time she was a major, and I think she went on later to be the colonel, and then I think she went on to do something in politics, local politics. Like I need to double check that. I remember that occurring, but I know somehow she got into like local county government. Like she might have been the what we call the county commissioner down here, or they might have called it executor or something like that. But they're pretty much the person in charge of the county. So the he's doing this, he's trying to live his life. He's in pain, and all these things are going on. And then he had some marital problems, which happens to a lot of people. So nothing I've said so far is, unrealistic. But so I guess they had. I'm trying to remember. I think they had become separated or something like that, and he was still trying to have this relationship with his wife. Perfectly understandable, no problem. So he's trying to, keep it together, and at this point, it was kind of known later that he had become addicted to a lot of these painkillers, and it was affecting him in a lot of ways, plus his marriage and stuff like that. So he was trying to, I guess you could say, buy back her love. I really hate to speak for somebody, but based on the evidence and stuff like that, I know that when he committed some of these bank robberies, after that, he went out and bought her like a BMW and stuff like that had occurred, which a lot of this stuff was revealed later. So this is where it gets really interesting and crazy. Like some people could have really gotten hurt, if not become deceased due to certain situations. But so we had one that occurred in Fairfax Shopping Center. It's U.S. Route 202. It was also called Concord Pike, and there was a bank up there that got robbed, and then the people kind of went left, and then so this is where it gets really interesting. So when he had been a road sergeant, he had a shift. Troop 1 was like a smaller troop. It's not as big as like Troop 6, which is the largest troop in the state. You would have a shift of 6, 7 guys maybe. If somebody was always on vacation or whatever, then you have one person working the desk. Usually that's the desk sergeant. Sometimes a corporal would work the desk, and then the road sergeant would go out on the road. So I know he mixed it up a little bit. But so there was one trooper, I'm not going to mention his last name, but his first name was Pat. He was like one of the younger troopers and was working under him. And I know those two had bonded real well. So this trooper that I'm telling you about and his wife, they were living on a DuPont estate in one of their houses on the estate, which was very, very common with the DuPont family or anybody in that region with wealth. They kind of like to have like on ground live-in security, so they just pretty much give them a free house. So that's what was occurring. So somebody from the county police and the state police were living in this house, and then so one day we got a partial tag number and had a slight description of the vehicle. So this trooper, his first name's Pat, he's searching the whole area and everything. So like the Montchanan area is like pretty much country. It's a lot of the rich people, and it's a lot of country and just big estates. And so Pat and Paul were, they're still friends. They still, when they saw each other, they would communicate and what have you. So uh, Pat pulls up in his marked police car because he was in the area and they searched it all over. So he just figured he'd stop by and visit Paul. So the way I understand it, he came out and kind of confronted him, like not confronted him, but they started communicating. He's like, "What you doing?" And he said, "We're just looking for a bank robber. Rob the bank up the, and all this stuff." So the whole time, Pat doesn't know he's talking to the bank robber. He was just stopped by to visit a friend, basically. So this goes on for a while. So then they were able to, their investigation, somehow he had become a suspect. Paul, not Pat, but Paul. So so he was kind of on the radar, and then they were able to obtain enough evidence to do a search warrant at the residence where they lived on this DuPont estate. So when they do the I think I'm a little bit out of order, so let me back up slightly. So something happened, and prior to that, if I remember this correctly, I know all these things I'm going to tell you happened. I think I'm going to get the sequence correctly, but he became put on like a mental health disability, which he was having problems because of the painkillers, or I guess some other things, and so he became a person prohibited to have his law enforcement, gear, weapons, and stuff like that. So they end up performing a search warrant on the residence, and this is crazy because this was him to a T. When Paul would be in uniform, he was always like the classiest. All his buttons were always shined, just like pristine. He looked like what you wanted a trooper to be. He was really, really well groomed, physically fit, the whole 9 yards. So they perform a search warrant on the house, and they find like boxes of these brass buttons that you would put on your uniform. Then he was supposed to no longer have access to police, uniform or anything like that. Well, they find a dressed out mannequin with the state police, they call it like the Class A, uniform, stuff like that. And then the big box of all these brass buttons, which would have been like ridiculous amount. So then they also find a big cache of weapons. So when they ran the serial numbers on those weapons, it was determined they had been stolen from State Police Barracks Number 2, which is the detective troop, where he was one of the top dogs, so he had access to the evidence locker, and I guess stole a bunch of weapons. So then that gets done. There's still like a big investigation going on because they want to get him for the robberies. Like this other stuff would have been important, but they're trying to lump everything together. So technically, as a civilian dispatcher, I was not supposed to. I could have had privy to a lot of the information because I was cleared with all the high security clearances and stuff like that. But I as a civilian, I'm not part of an investigation. But I knew what was going on because I had so many trooper friends. So I end up at that point. I had just left. I had put in my notice, and I was going to go on and to do different things because civilian employment it paid very, very low at that time. So I leave, and I probably was not gone for, I don't know, maybe a couple months or whatever, but I still had a lot of trooper friends I talked to, and we would talk about that case, and they kind of clued me in on what was going on. So at this time, I'm working not too far over the line in Pennsylvania, but I come back, the first exit when you come south on I-95, when you come into Delaware, the first exit there is called Naaman's Road. And so I get off that exit, and I'm at a traffic light right in front of a Howard Johnson's where Northtown Plaza was. I know there's a bank in there, and it was right near Vinny's Pizza, if you listen to one of my previous stories. So I'm at the traffic light. I'm in the right lane, and I look over, and I see Paul's Bronco or I think it was a Bronco or Blazer. I think it was a Bronco. It was like red or maroon or something like that, and pull in. So I know what's going on, and I know there's a bank there. So I wait for him to go by, and then I pull in, and I had parked for a while, and I parked way down by the Howard Johnson side. He parks kind of like in the middle of the shopping center, and I'm watching him, and I see him get out, and he's looking towards the bank. He's scouting the whole, he's visually scouting out the whole parking lot. And this is before everybody had cell phones. So I'm like, oh man, it's about to go down. So the bank robber was always using a real thick like wool hat with big dark sunglasses and a big dark coat and all that. So I see him kind of walking up towards the front door. He's looking around, I guess, to see how many customers were in there, whatever. And then he peels off to the right and goes into a drugstore called Eckerd Drugs. So he's in there for a couple minutes, and I'm sitting there just watching and watching and watching. And I see him walk, and he comes back to his Bronco, and then I see him get back out of his Bronco, and he's putting on this dark wool cap and dark sunglasses. Then he's starting to walk towards the Bank of Delaware. So I'm like, oh man, this like, I wish I could do something here. I didn't have a weapon on me. I didn't have any authority, and did not have a cell phone. But probably 20 or 25 yards from where I was, there was a outdoor payphone, which those are almost non-existent nowadays. So I run over to the phone. I put a quarter in, and I call Troop 1, and a female trooper answers the phone that I know really well. And I tell her, hey, I think something's about to go down. And I tell her what I saw, everything like that. And then for whatever reason, he chickens out. He comes back, gets into his vehicle, and takes off, heading up Naaman's Road, which would go towards like Concord Pike, which that other, bank had been robbed previously. So I'm trying to talk to her, tell her all this stuff and everything. And she says, like, all right, I never did hear anything more from anybody, but turned out there was no bank robbery that day. But they finally did they did capture him, and he was convicted for multiple bank robberies. But I'm sitting in the parking lot thinking I'm about to witness this. Here's a guy that was like a role model of mine, and I'm thinking like, oh crap, this is not good, because I can't do anything to stop it. No cell phone. So it was just a bad situation. But I will say he did his time. He went on to be rehabilitated. He was working for a towing company for a long time. I have no idea what he's doing nowadays. He would be probably 11 years older than me, roughly, maybe 12 years older than me. So he may be retired now, but that's the story, folks. And good cop turns bad. I feel bad for him, because he just it wasn't his fault he got rear-ended and hooked on drugs, because his whole life would have been different. He would have been of sound mind. But anyway, you never know what's going to happen in someone's life. But true story, folks. Sorry it took so long. Had to give you all the details. Peace.